Well, we thought we might talk about caves.
We went caves. We like caves. We grew up close to Carlsbad Caverns. So Tiffany's from Seminole, Texas, which is like near Hobbs, New Mexico, which is like how far from Carlsbad?
Like in 2 hours, less than 2 hours.
It's less than 2 hours. Oh man. And I was raised like we're cousins, by the way. We're first cousins. Our moms are sisters. So I was raised like in like Albuquerque area, south of Albuquerque, and that was probably, I don't know, 3 hours to Carlsbad. So we kind of would meet.
Math doesn't add up because we lived 8 hours apart, but
It wasn't 8 hours. It's like 5 hours. It just seems like 8 hours when you're a kid. Yeah.
okay, maybe so. Huh.
Because it's 10 hours for me to get from Dallas to Albuquerque.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can get down to like, El Paso in 3 hours from Albuquerque.
Okay.
Yeah. But you do have to go. The roads are not as straight. It's not highway.
4 hours from El Paso. But
well, how long were you guys from Cloudcroft?
4 hours.
Okay, I think it took us like that too. So maybe that's why.
That's why I always thought 8 hours, but you wouldn't go through Cloudcroft if you were going between.
Yeah, you would go through like Mountain Air or whatever you would. Right. Yeah. Anyway, so we did lots of Carlsbad caverning when we were a kid.
Yes. And recently we went to the Mammoth Caves.
Yes.
Are named Mammoth Caves because of the giant mammoth room in which there is absolutely nothing.
Yeah. It's the biggest cave system in America, right? So it was like, I can't even remember the mileage, but it's just insanely huge. But we were used to growing up like seeing Carlsbad, so we had tons of stalagmites, whatever, and we were like always into these different formations, and just being able to just like walk freely and be like, oh yeah, look at that bat, but oh look at that one, look at that, and then we get to Mammoth and it's like you have to have a tour guide. There's no free
go into the caves without a tour guide,
but which is confusing to me because the caves, they have a couple of formations, but nothing like Carlsbad. Like it's a lot of like formationless caves.
Formationless caves.
Right.
Yeah. Just giant rooms.
Underground, which is cool too. It had its own thing. It had some historical value and it was cool and I still liked it. But at the same time, I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I was like, it wasn't what I was
expecting.
It wasn't what I was expecting. That's true.
I was kind of expecting something very similar to Carlsbad.
Right, but bigger.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Right. Well, and actually the prettiest cave I've ever been to is the Sonora Caverns in southern Texas. It's like, yeah, but it's a private cave. It's not publicly owned, so it's not a national park. And you can, you go in single file. They only allow 20 people in, I don't know if it's a day or a time or whatever, but it's like you're right next to the formations as you're walking. And it's very intimate and personal and like beautiful, super beautiful. Mm-hmm. But and so there are other caves. There's like the Cave Without a Name in San Antonio. Like there's a bunch of different caves like in Texas and all these other places that people don't really know about. But the reason Mammoth is so famous is it's like the connected mileage of it all is the biggest cave system in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's in northern Kentucky?
Incredible. I'm really glad we went. I would go back.
Oh, I would too, because that's the other thing. You cannot see all of, like we went on 2 or 3 tours.
3, I thought.
3. And there's like 10 or 12, or there's a ton of tours, and there's also seasonal tours. Right. So they open different parts at different times. So, I mean, but you have to be behind a guide who's talking the entire time. You can't do any of your own personal exploring, which is its own ordeal.
But I mean, so it's southern Kentucky, first of all, not northern, but
okay.
But yeah, we were able to drive there, in like an hour and a half from my house or something? 2 hours?
Yeah, so she's in Lexington, so I thought it was 2.
Maybe 2, yeah. But then there was the added bonus of like the time change because I'm in the Eastern Standard Time Zone and that was in Central, so it meant we didn't have to get up quite as early.
I didn't realize it changes time zones within the state.
Yeah, the most western part of Kentucky is in the Central Time Zone.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
there aren't many states that do that.
no.
Kentucky,
I
Florida.
think El Paso does that, like in Texas. El Paso stays with New Mexico.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
But I can't think of it. I mean, I know Arizona is just like, we don't recognize it.
Right.
Which I like.
Yep. Yep.
I think it needs to go away.
Yeah.
Daylight savings, that is. Yeah, but okay, so the other thing about caves, I think that's a little bit interesting is like, oh, there was a big tuberculosis thing. Like they had all these, yeah, they had all these like old houses because they thought that like that would have been like the atmosphere like was a way, you know, or the environment was what was kind of like getting to people's lungs and killing them. So they thought like, okay, so they did an experiment back in, I don't remember what year, but when it was like in the Western days. It would be nice if I could fact check myself and tell you guys what exact year. But anyway, they did a big experiment where they tried to cure tuberculosis by having people come live in isolation down in these caves in these little houses. And it was super glum because it was just, it's dark as can be. They would have had only, like there's no electricity during that time, so they would have only had like candlelight. And then I don't know, I guess they had to have people bring them food and this or that. Me and Tiffany had decided, well, I had heard this story about how there's these monks that exist in like Tibet and stuff.
Oh, right.
Yeah, who like they spend 40 days in total darkness once every 50 years, and then they reset their DNA and they become like young again, and like that's how they live to be like 500 years old. It's just like, and the idea is not isolation, it's not meditation for 40 days, it's not whatever, blah blah blah. It's that you have to be in pitch blackness, like you're whatever for 40 days solid,
Yeah.
like not an ounce of light.
Decided that we could do this.
And we were like, we could totally do this.
Sign us.
Oh, I think you're cutting out.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, so say that again. We decided
we could do this, and we're going through this cave talking about how we could do this. And the next day we went swimming in sensory deprivation tanks, and we couldn't even last an hour, and we were like, forget it.
We were like, we can do this sensory deprivation tank, it's going to be so amazing. And then it was like, everything about the sensory, it was like you have to put Vaseline on your hands if you have like any like little hangnail or cuticles like not feeling amazing, or a little scratch on your arm or whatever. It's like, oh, the salt water will sting. Yeah. It really does, by the way. And then you're just like completely naked in this like cesspool of like who knows who else has been in there. And like I kept on thinking about that. I like, this is right before the coronavirus hit. Like this was like
right before coronavirus.
Yeah, this is like in February.
But I didn't think about that too much because I imagine that most of these things are killed by the salt water. But I had other problems. We had different issues. Like I got motion sickness.
I had to open the thing because I ran out of air. So I'm in the tank, like floating there, like going, like I can't breathe. Like I had to literally like sit up and like get some air in there. There was no flow. It was yeah. So I don't think me in 40 days of complete darkness in a cave is probably gonna work.
But I did get a little bit of good meditation. Like I did the chakra meditation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and that was nice. But I think like for me, sensory deprivation needs to last about 15 minutes.
Yeah, not 40 days. I think we established we're probably not gonna be able to do the 40 days. Even though we talked about like we could do, if we could go into Mammoth Caves, and that's their thing. They told us that you could do private, like you can get private access to the caves if you like apply for it, like, you know, and you don't have to be, the guide was saying you don't have to be as like special cave geologist or something as you think. Like he said they've had writers, they've had
come in for inspiration.
People, yeah, exactly. So we were like, okay, so we could go into a blackest part of the cave, and we could like have music, and we could have like, you know, we could learn how to play guitar, we could listen to audiobooks, we could yeah.
Conversations. It's going to be great. Yeah. So it turns out we would not have survived the tuberculosis ward. So I looked it up for us. It was in
Okay.
1839 is when they had the experiment. So in 1839, John Croghan, 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 John Croghan, purchased the cave for this medical experiment. And they had it as a sanitarium. And people just lived down there by themselves.
Until they died. Because it didn't do anything for the tuberculosis, so they were in a dark cave till their death.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't that long of an experiment, right? Like it was only like he said.
Yeah, I think they figured out pretty quickly that it wasn't going to work. Yeah. Let's see.
6 months.
So they had 15 patients, and he bought the cave in 1839, but they didn't enter the patients until 1842. And yeah, I don't know what happened to them. I thought that some of them left. Was that not the case?
I think they left because they were like, yeah, I don't want to die here. But I don't think anybody cured themselves of tuberculosis.
They were there for 5 months, from the autumn of 42 to early 43. Yeah. And the doctor that purchased the cave ultimately died of tuberculosis in 49.
So that's not funny, but I mean, it's just kind of is.
It's innovative, though. I mean, perhaps we should try to open up the cave for coronavirus.
For the coronavirus, yeah. Just send everybody down there to just as an experiment. Maybe it'll work. You never know. Trying everything else, right?
Right. Different breathing conditions.
It's true. The
Could
environmental
have absence of ventilators in the country.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yep. Man. So yeah, splunking. We should become splunkers. That's what I think.
Okay, but I do think, like, I don't think I could handle this small space in the caves. Like, it freaked me out a little bit. So the caves in Kentucky were created, or a lot of them, I guess, were closed off because of sinkholes. Like, sinkholes would come and cave in, and then you couldn't get into the cave. It would cut off access or entry points, or in some cases create entry points. And that kind of wigged me out being in there.
Yeah, because like we were kind of going like, well, when can a sinkhole? Well, and the other thing is like we're at one level, but you know there's like it's like an anthill of stuff underneath you. Who knows for how long down? And any of it, like the calcium deposits of everything, could eventually be like, bloop, like.
Yeah. It freaked me out a little. I'll be honest. Yeah. But on the way back, we stopped at some nice rock stores.
They have a lot of nice rock stores out there. I wish we would have gone into more, but they weren't really open so much. But
right, it was out of season. Yeah.
I always think every time I go into a rock shop, like, how do they stay in business? But then I'm like, people like me. That's how. But how are there that many people like me? I don't think there's that many people like me.
I don't know.
Like I go to rock shops everywhere in the world. Like I love them, and I cannot not buy something. Like I always find something to buy. Like it's. I mean, I probably spend. I don't know. At least, probably the least I've ever spent in a rock shop is like $15. You know, and then the most is like, oh, I'll see like a meteorite that I have to have or something, and then it'll be like $100 or something. But yeah, I cannot see there being that many people like that, like just like to have rocks to have and to hold.
Yeah, I think maybe though we don't have a good sense of scale, because I always think the same thing when I'm driving in the middle of the day and see a lot of traffic. I look around me and I think, shouldn't these people be at work? But I'm not at work. So it's kind of like daytime traffic. I just don't have a very good sense of scale of like what else is going on out there that creates this backup in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I think that too. I'm like, what are these? Because I have irregular hours, so I'll just be like, what do these people do? Like, do people not have 9 to 5s anymore? Or yeah, I get that same sentiment.
And so maybe it's the same with the rock collectors. If all those people stuck in traffic also collect rocks, then
Yeah, that's true. Or I mean, I guess we have such a high population that you don't even need that many people. Like you need one sucker like me to come drop $100 every hour and you're good.
Yeah, or I think a lot of families go to the caves and then the kids, demand whatever. And some of the rocks are pretty cheap, so you can everybody can pick out their 5 best rocks or whatever.
No, yeah, rocks are like under $1 and stuff. I mean, like there's some nice.
$7 on one. What is the beautiful green one?
Well, there's a lot of green rocks, but was it the one that is like a what is it called? Start with a C. Was it chrysanthemum or Christoph? Is it the same one that you have in Argentina a lot?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Like, was it turquoisey green or was it like?
No, I'll show you.
Okay, let's see.
So here's what I got at the rock store when we went on our trip to Mammoth Caves. So I got this one.
Oh, malachite.
Malachite, yes.
Yeah.
You got a beautiful malachite. Now this cost me almost $8. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice specimen though. It's got nice waves in it.
These two. What was this one?
That's sodalite, I think. That's like a dark sodalite, yeah.
Okay, so it's beautiful. A little rough around the edges, but I like it. And then I got this one.
Ooh, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I should have written it down, I suppose.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So that's my rock collection from our Mammoth Cave trip. And then
I'm gonna make you a rock person eventually.
Yeah, I'm gonna be surrounded by them. I also bought a clam fossil because they told us that was the
national Kentucky. I bought that one too.
Fossil from Kentucky. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bad with all my rocks and stuff. I just kind of put them together, and I'd say 90% of my rocks are self-found. Often around walking and being like, oh my god, this is amazing. But some of the special audit, I'm holding a big lapis round thing right now, right?
Okay. Lapis, that's common in Chile.
Well, there's only 2 mines in the world that have it, Afghanistan and Chile. And so it's like in the Renaissance and stuff, this was such a valuable possession. Like this was way more expensive than gold. Like this was there was porphyry, which was a red stone that was the most expensive in the ancient Roman times and all the way up into the Renaissance. But then the second most expensive stone in the world was lapis. And because it was only at that point, they didn't know anything about Chile. There was only the Afghanistan mines, and they used it. That's why only royal figures, like the Christ figure or something that was commissioned from bigger places, could have that royal blue robe and stuff like that. It was because they had to crush this stuff and to make it into paint. And it was the only real kind of true dark whatever kind of blue this is. And just the lapis lazuli blue was reserved for royalty stuff. So you had to have special permission to use it in paintings. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then now it's just they're depleting their minds. They're there's so many. That's the thing about a lot of these rocks and stuff is it's they're cool, and I think they're cool to collect and stuff, but they'll eventually be in so many different types of minerals only have one source because of the unique condition that this one I'm kind of obsessed with right now. I'm kind of obsessed with shungite, and I'm kind of obsessed with moldavite. And moldavite was it hit in Czechoslovakia back whenever, like millions of years ago or whatever, and it was a comet that hit a hill, and basically it's the Moldavite is not the actual comet, but it is it's like the glass that was formed on that sand hill that it hit and pushed it out. Okay, so it makes it to where it's like a bubbly green looking stuff, but this condition only happened in one place in the world, so you can only find this kind of thing in one place in the world. And like now the mine or the hill that it hit is almost completely dug up, and the same sort of thing that is happening with shungite is like this black carbonite pure stone that you can only find in like this one little range in Russia. All this stuff is like that. There are only very short places that they have them, and then they're nowhere else. So once they're all gone, it's like whatever.
But maybe like new rocks are being created in the world, or
I don't know. It's more like the Earth's rocks are like the Earth's skin. She only has so much of it.
yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's why I kind of also have like a little bit of like I'd rather find something that the earth is giving you, like a piece of rock that was come to the surface, than mine, because I don't know, I kind of feel like that's cutting versus just like picking a pimple that's on the surface. That's bad, bad analogy, but that's kind of thinking it's not as invasive.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
We can't mine her forever on everywhere all the time. It's just not it's not feasible.
Right. Well, I mean, there's lots of
non-feasible things we do.
yeah. I was gonna say lots of problems with extractions, but yeah.
Definitely true.